All right. Thursday night. What's going on, guys? Let's get this thing nice and loaded. We'll send it. So again, change of plans, guys. I got 2 live streams booked tomorrow for Vado Speedway Park's Facebook page. Guys, we're we're previewing the upcoming Wild West shootout. I'm going to be interviewing Cody Thompson at 10 a.m. and Tyler Stevens at 5 p.m. So tomorrow it is a Vado day. So I'll be on Vado Speedway Park's Facebook page morning and evening. Afternoon, I'll be up at the Baked Chicken Farm. We're going to be celebrating a little Christmas there. So anyways, we got a jam-packed day tomorrow, and it just ended up having to pack up a little bit heavier than I thought, guys. And so this is my last one for the week. You know where to find me tomorrow, though, Vado Speedway Park Facebook page. Cool, so good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Joaquin Acosta, your guide and host for tonight's Know Your Pharmacist live stream. As the CEO of PharmTrue and a passionate advocate for innovative healthcare, I'm thrilled to welcome you to a journey where science meets compassion and technology intertwines with human care. Tonight, we're diving deep into the heart of healthcare's most pressing issues. We're going to explore the alarming trend of Adderall misuse in Mexican pharmacies, a stark reminder of the fine line between medication and misuse. We're also tackling the controversial topic of facial recognition technology in pharmacies. How does it affect our privacy and rights? We're going to discuss that and more. But that's not all. We'll delve into the acute effects of ketamine, a topic brought into limelight by the tragic experience of Matthew Perry. It's a conversation about the fine balance between therapeutic use and potential abuse. In our Herbal Wellness Corner, we're addressing a critical issue, the rise of vaping among teens. As parents, educators, and healthcare professionals, it's crucial we understand and address this trend. And for a special segment, join me at Vado Speedway Park tomorrow again, guys, 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. We will be hitting it, Cody Thompson, Tyler Stevens, for an exciting community spotlight. We're not just about healthcare here, we're about community engagement and the thrill of life, aka racing, baby. Lastly, in our Men's Health Minute, we'll discuss the importance of oral health, often overlooked, but vital for overall well-being. Tonight's show is not just a discussion, it's an immersive experience. We're here to connect, learn, and grow together. So sit back and engage with us, and let's embark on this enlightening journey. Your health, your wellness, our mission. Let's make this an unforgettable night of learning and empowerment. Welcome to Know Your Pharmacist, last one of the week, baby. All right, so first things first, guys, talking about counterfeit Adderall coming out of Mexico, some creepy stuff. You know, obviously we've been talking about the counterfeit fentanyl pills that were coming out of, Mexico there, fueling our opioid epidemic here in, the state of New Mexico, in the United States. It's a terrible place, especially as a border state. We are probably at the hub of plenty of drug trafficking. Granted, Espanola, Albuquerque are really, really, really bad. Even southern New Mexico, we have our pockets, guys. But again, where does it go out into the north and out into those bigger cities and the metropolitan areas? And, we start hitting, the poorer parts of our society and really just plaguing them with the opioid epidemic. And it's just a terrible thing. Obviously, it can happen to anybody based on their socioeconomic conditions. However, we know our most vulnerable populations there for sure. Anyways, discussing the, Mexican mafia there, the cartels that are actually selling Adderall right now out of Mexican pharmacies, recently found in a raid in November, guys, in Puerto Vallarta and Cabo San Lucas. None of the 15 pills sold as Adderall in November contained either of the medication's active ingredients, dextroamphetamine or amphetamine. Instead, 13 contained methamphetamine, drug closely related, but stronger. So coming out of the LA Times today, guys, just important things to consider there about the counterfeit pills found in the pharmacies in Mexico. Again, be really careful about the controlled substances that you buy in Mexico, because you never know exactly who's making it, who's putting it in what, and especially if it's not in stock in the United States and people know they can go across the border. And, the border over there, they don't care. They know you're coming ready to get something that you can't get there, and they're going to give you something, right? So again, they're giving out methamphetamine as far as last month in Puerto Vallarta and Cabo San Lucas. So those of you guys going down to Mexico, just be careful. Just be careful. That's all I got to say. Now it's, perhaps worse than ever. So again, it's the winter months. Sometimes people like to go south. You South birds go chasing the heat and stuff like that. You can go completely change it up, go sit in the ocean, you know, enjoy your Mexican time. However, again, just be careful shopping for those controlled substances in Mexico. That's, you know, my 110% view there. Giving you guys a quick study from that about fentanyl, heroin, and methamphetamine-based counterfeit pills coming out of Mexico. I'm just gonna pop some data up. This was over the last 2 years in 2021 and 2022. So this isn't just a month, right? So looking at this here, published in January, an ethnographic and drug checking study. So found there in the 2021 and 2022 study, participants described the arrival of new, unusually potent tablets sold as ostensibly controlled substances without a prescription directly from pharmacists that cater to US tourists. That's who, right? So again, you know, it's targeted to places where people are going to be highly trafficked. So if it's a, you know, highly sought after thing in a highly trafficked place in Mexico, there's a very good chance that, you know, they could just mislabel that, and you never know. You don't want to be taking meth, or, you know, really the big thing would be fentanyl. At the end of the day, you may not die from a dose of meth as you might from a dose of fentanyl just on your first chance. Just saying that right there, because fentanyl is so potent of an opioid, right? In terms of morphine equivalents, right? So fentanyl will put a normal person who might have just been looking for that, you know, 10 milligram of oxy, it might really actually put them under, especially if they've been drinking, you know, something like that. That could be a situation there in Mexico. And so again, respiratory depression, something that alcohol does do and can be definitely done by combinations of other medications such as benzodiazepines or opioids, right? You know, that's how Mac Miller died. Just throwing that out there too for those of you in the younger generation that are aware of that. So let's move on to tech talk. We're talking about Rite Aid. This one was interesting. Rite Aid is actually facing a 5-year facial recognition technology ban. So let's take a look at this.
Intelligence, facial recognition technology in all of its stores.
That's right. The national drugstore chain reached a settlement with the Federal Trade Commission. The FDA says, the FTC says from 2012 to 2020, the company's surveillance system falsely identified some customers as shoplifters. This is the first time the FTC has ever ordered anyone to stop using facial recognition. NBC News technology correspondent Jacob Ward is following this story for us. So, Jake, what exactly did the FTC uncover here, and what's Rite Aid saying?
Well, Zinkley, basically the company contracted out facial recognition to a couple of other companies, and according to the FTC, things got out of hand really quick. I've been talking to people who were closely associated with this project in the past, and they said that the original concept here was that you would, through this database, essentially spot repeat shoplifters and very politely approach them to tell them, you know, may I help you? May I help you? And that they would somehow, you know, be sort of embarrassed into leaving as a result. Instead, things got out of hand. A database that was originally supposed to be full of very high quality images instead got full of smartphone video and news clippings, all sorts of things. And you had employees beginning to essentially improvise and begin hauling people out of line, embarrassing them in front of friends, family, colleagues. Now, Rite Aid looks at all of this and has said that it fundamentally disagrees in a statement with the FTC's findings. It says that this was a limited scope, that it only happened across a handful of stores, and they respect the FTC's inquiry, however, and that is code for the fact that they have in fact gone along with this. So they will be banned for 5 years, as you mentioned there, a first for tech and for the FTC.
Jake, big picture here, what does this settlement mean for facial recognition when it's used in other stores, in airports? We're seeing it sort of everywhere we go.
Well, industry people are telling me that facial recognition is actually something that retailers are pulling away from because they're worried about being accused the same way that the FTC has essentially accused Rite Aid here of discriminating against certain categories of shoppers. But more broadly, when I speak to people close to the FTC, they also say that this is a line in the sand about technology in general. This is basically the beginning of an era in which the FTC is not going to allow companies to experiment in the wild on all of us with unproven technologies. Instead, they'll have to show that these things work, not just in the lab, but out in the world before something like this. And this 8-year episode of what the FTC essentially says was a live experiment, they're hoping is going to be the last one of its kind, you guys.
Wow. All right, Jake Ward, thank you as always.
I mean, my thoughts there, guys, facial recognition, that's part of everything that's going to continue to keep innovating in terms of being able to help society, right? Whether it's your healthcare appointments and your medical diagnostics, or actually helping to secure places that are public, right? You probably would want a little bit of that, big brother activity there. And again, it was that technology abused, or were they just making a case out of nothing? Who knows? But I don't think there's anything wrong with that by any means. I think in terms of, it's your business, it's your property, however that has to be, right? You are liable for whatever happens on it. And if you, are able to have the statistics and the data on your own facility or your own place, you're able to protect yourself a little bit more, right? And again, that's just a part of doing business. But the other part is using that kind of technology for incredibly cool, new, good things. And I don't think, there's really anything in Rite Aid's, I hope that there's nothing in the Rite Aid situation there that, rebounds and people and saying retailers are pulling away from using social recognition. I don't think that's quite a fair statement there. Whether, retailers are trying to figure that out more than ever, and how to do it on a very advanced level. So again, whether or not they're hiding it or how they don't know how to regulate it, not Rite Aid's problem for sure. And maybe it's Rite Aid's problem for not having a system in place on, who to trust with technology and so on and so forth, right? And just giving that out there to everybody maybe led some potential of abuse. So people right out there, have those systems. Always worth thinking about. I'll definitely think about that myself for sure. But at the same time, yes, when you're being watched by a camera and it tells you right when you walk in the building, it is what it is. And if you're a repeat shopper and you've committed crimes over and over again, if you're having sketchy activity in the building and you're being aggressive hospitality is being served to you because of that, it is what it is. You have to go and police those measures, and that kind of stuff just doesn't get away. That can't let those things can't just keep going, right? And we know the problems. All right, let's move on to Enlightenment Hour, guys. So interesting, right? Talking about the acute effects of ketamine and what does that mean, and why did Matthew Perry, the star of Friends, die from it? I think worth talking about, right? Because ketamine, wildly been on the more trendier side of antidepressant drugs lately, right? And a lot of these ketamine infusions, so on and so forth, people can get carried away with it. Matthew Perry maybe had been one of them, right? And so, looking at this, I'll share with you guys Matthew Perry, rest in peace, right? Renowned for his role in Friends and publicly addressing his prolonged struggles with substance abuse, passed away at the age of 54. Again, the LA County Medical Examiner's Office, in an autopsy report released on Friday, identified the primary cause of Perry's death as the acute effects of ketamine, a potent anesthetic with psychedelic properties. Unresponsive in the hot tub on October 28th, the autopsy report listed additional factors contributing to his demise, including drowning, coronary artery disease, and the presence of the opioid buprenorphine in his system. Despite undergoing ketamine infusion therapy, the autopsy ruled out the possibility that the ketamine detected in his system originated from his last known therapy session, which had occurred about a week and a half before his death, right? The report emphasized that the elevated levels of ketamine found in Perry's post-mortem blood could result in cardiovascular overstimulation and respiratory depression. The concentration of the ketamine was noted to be equivalent to that used in general anesthesia. Despite ketamine's growing use as an alternative therapy for mental health condition, it's known to be used recreationally. In October, the Food and Drug Administration issued a warning alerting the public to the hazards of compounded versions of drugs for treating psychiatric disorders. Additionally, toxicology tests revealed the presence of therapeutic levels of buprenorphine, a drug commonly prescribed for drug addiction and pain management. I'm definitely, can't say I'm a pro ketamine guy, right? Some people are. I think it's weird. Some people definitely have a nose for it, right? And that's really weird, and they should be checked out. And some people just like the trendier new things, and sometimes those, druggier people might want to trend into wanting to do something like that. However, again, this is the kind of thing that gets cannabis put in a bad spot. So I can't sit here and endorse, ketamine And when it has such a potential for abuse, right? It's a general anesthetic. You can die from the overdose. And again, abused by a guy that was an alcoholic his whole life, right? So here it goes. So anyways, Perry's live-in assistant stated in a witness statement that Perry was under the care of a psychiatrist and took buprenorphine as prescribed twice a day. Although investigators found evidence of sedatives, there was no indication of alcohol or cocaine in his system. Details surrounding the day of his death were disclosed in unsealed records from the autopsy report. Witnesses informed detectives that Perry had engaged in pickleball at 11 a.m. His assistant left residence for errands around 1:37 p.m. and returned at 4 p.m. to discover Perry floating face down. So again, that's where he was basically dead, right? Again, looking at it, he had struggles with substance abuse, the buprenorphine, right, to try to stop from opioids and try to get his doses down, so on and so forth. He's obviously had, everything that's happened from his success. But guys, we're looking at really ketamine here and recreational ketamine. Again, ketamine being the dissociative anesthetic hallucinogen, inducing us of detachment from pain and surroundings while distorting perceptions of sight and sound. Approved as a short-acting anesthetic for both human and animals, ketamine is also employed off-label to manage post-surgical and acute pain. Dr. Amber Baroki, an associate professor of anesthesiology, perioperative, and pain medicine at Stanford University, and a member of the pain committee for the California Study of Anesthesiologists, notes its use in hospitals typically involves low-dose IV infusions. A specific variant of ketamine known as S-ketamine or S-ketamine, right, literally, is sanctioned as a nasal spray for treating treatment-resistant depression in adults. And again, that's FDA approved. It's not compounded ketamine as, yes, this was talking about right here. The warning's there, for sure. So again, how can recreational ketamine be dangerous? As we already looked here, people often combine it with substances such as MDMA, amphetamine, methamphetamine, and cocaine. While the side effects observed in clinical settings may also manifest in recreational use, higher doses exacerbate severity. So again, right, elevated ketamine doses lead to neurological, GI, and potential cardiovascular and respiratory toxicity, right? The ketamine hole, K-hole, right? So where that overdose encompass loss of consciousness, dangerously low breathing, and heart-related issues like a slow rate heart attack or even a heart attack, right? So sitting there in the K-hole, being doped up on opioids, right? That's the perfect concoction to sit there and suffocate in a hot tub. R.I.P. Matthew Perry, right? So that sucks. All right, guys, look in here. Next one, happy holidays. Teens and vaping, what should parents know? So this one is from a fellow pharmacist. I like it. Hawk Expert Pharmacist explains the risk in vaping for teens. In recent years, the prevalence of preteens and teens vaping has increased tremendously, which may cause some parents to worry. We understand you may have tons of questions alike. What is vaping? How can I prevent my child from vaping? And how can I help them quit? Well, Cody Peterson, doctor of pharmacy at the Julia and George Argios Emergency Department at Seahawk Hospital in Orange, is here to answer all your questions about vaping and how to help your child avoid it. Right, so how does it work? E-cigs will always have three basic components: heating element, the atomizer, the battery, and the vaping liquid. These devices heat a liquid until it becomes a vapor, which is then inhaled, says Cody. The liquid, called e-liquid or vape juice, most commonly contains nicotine, but the devices can also be found with THC, obviously we know, distillate or oil, plus terpenes or something like that. E-cigs can either be refillable or come pre-filled with cartridges containing the e-liquid. The pre-filled e-cigarettes, called puff bars, are designed for one-time use. After taking a certain number of puffs, the user throws the device away. What's the problem here in our local region in Las Cruces and El Paso? It's nicotine. These ones are filled with nicotine, and you'd think, cannabis ones would have went way up, but that's not the problem, right? It's that nicotine because it's truly physically addictive. So vaping become increasingly popular among preteens and teens. A study by the CDC found that in 2022, 2.55 million U.S. middle and high school students reported current e-cig use, which is in the past 30 days, including 14.1% in high school students and 3.3% middle school students. Nearly 85% of those youth used flavored e-cigarettes, and more than half used disposable e-cigarettes. Why is vaping so popular for teens? It's relatively new technology, says Dr. Peterson. It's only about 15 to 20 years old, so its newness may explain some of the popularity, but there are a few other reasons why vaping is popular for some teens. He adds, like, nicotine is addicting. Vapes often deliver nicotine in the form of tasty flavors that mimic treats like candy, fruit, and desserts that are appealing to teens. Vaping is discreet. Teens may be able to vape anytime, anywhere, at school, out in public, or even in the bathroom, oftentimes leaving little evidence other than a slight smell or vapor in the air. Vaping is relatively accepted. In the recent years, teens have leaned into vaping instead of smoking cigarettes. Most teens never consider smoking cigarettes because everyone knows how bad they are for you. But even when vaping nicotine, teens don't put in cigarettes in the same category. So what are the health risks of vaping for preteens and teens? It seems like many preteens and teens think that vaping is safe. However, the reality is that there are some harms that come from vaping that can cause the following health risks, says Cody. Chronic bronchitis, coughing and lung irritation, lung inflammation, difficulty breathing, nicotine or THC addiction. THC addiction is known as cannabis hyperemesis syndrome. Not quite addiction physically, right? Anyways, alters a teen brain chemistry. Cannabis, much more reversible, definitely there. Increased risk of anxiety and depression, harmful effects on the immune system of the lungs, and serious damage to the lungs or death, right? So what's the EVALI? EVALI stands for e-cig vaping associated lung injury, guys, popcorn lung. In 2019, there was a steep increase in hospitalizations for lung injuries associated with vaping in the United States. Unfortunately, thousands of people, including teens, became seriously ill from the lung damage. Investigators have since discovered that unregulated THC-containing e-cigs were the most common culprit in this outbreak. More specifically, FDA research pointed that vitamin E acetate, a chemical that added to some vape liquids to make them thicker and easier to vape, was likely causing the injuries. When exhaled, vitamin E acetate negatively interacted with the fats in people's lungs and caused havoc even at low doses. So symptoms of this EVALI included rapid and difficulty breathing, coughing, chest pain, fever, low oxygen, and coughing up blood in some cases. For most patients, the recovery process was long and arduous, with half of patients still reporting long-term effects, and some patients may never fully recover. Now, although vitamin E acetate isn't used as an additive in vapes anymore, Cody warns parents about the unregulated ingredients and parts of vapes that still put teens at risk for developing lung injuries. So although EVALI isn't happening anymore, there could be an outbreak of different substances included in vapes. He said the safest way to prevent injuries in teens is to encourage them not to vape at all. So how might a parent be able to tell their child is vaping? It's so accessible and easily hidden, difficult to tell if your child is vaping without looking through their room or their belongings. Here's a sign you can watch for: new health issues such as chronic coughing or wheezing, e-cig supplies such as cartridges or small bottles of liquid, new smells. Some flavorings are banned, but others in nicotine and marijuana vapes, cannabis vapes. So parents might notice fruity or sweet scents, nicotine withdrawal symptoms like irritation, restlessness, trouble concentrating, trouble sleeping, weight gain, feelings of anxiety, sadness, or depression. Guys, main thing talking to here as I talk to parents too, it's easy to want to react. Don't react. Do not react. There's a reason for all that happening. Got to get to that point. All you're going to do is, get this thing hid under the bed even more, right? So there you go. Get to know your kids a little bit. It's probably a good way to have an open and honest conversation with them about it. No judgment. If they know they could go to you no judgment free, there's oftentimes cases where children will go to their parents and say, hey, I want to get off this, right? I want to get off this, right? Anyways, how can parents prevent their preteens and teens from vaping? Don't over stigmatize it. Big one, right? Be open and honest with your kids about vaping and explain the health risks it may cause. Explain to them that their friends or other students may vape, and they don't just need to do it to fit in. If you catch your child vaping, be sure to ask them what it is that they like about it and what positive effects they perceive that they get from it. Also, it can be helpful to keep an eye out for changing behavior. It could be socializing with new people they didn't meet before, avoiding something in their life like school, sports, or friends, isolating themselves, right? Another way there, to talk about that, especially on the prehand, is you don't know what you're getting, especially from random people, right? Like, definitely not something that you want, and you don't know what these manufacturers are putting in it to just make you want to come back. And again, where you can really kind of show your kids that data, I think they can probably make a little bit more informed decisions ahead of time themselves and not have to, at least to know their limits if they're going to try it or whatever it's going to be, right? But the key to explain the risk for vaping of your child is to help them find the motivation to quit, right? Wanting to be the best and healthiest version of themselves, right? Just encouraging that, right? You don't want to put something weird that you don't know in your body, that you don't know where it came from, don't know how it's made, and you don't know how it's going to affect you. And a lot of the times it's affecting teens like this. And it leads you on, specific addictive paths there. You don't want to be addicted, right? That's a good argument to have ahead of time, right? It'll come out in whatever other way. Avoiding health effects like lung injuries, saving money, not wanting to increase anxiety or depression, going against ads that targets young people. A good one is just making people very aware of how they might be targeted, right? And how exactly what may be defined as cool, right? There's always going to be the next cool thing. And so, anytime something fits that framework, it's a perfect time to think, what's going on here, right? And how can you give your kid that little bit of awareness ahead of time, right? And really, it's just, I think matter of examples and sharing, truths and examples is a great way that people learn, because historically everything has already happened before, right? So, the more you've seen, the more you can learn from. And again, it's worth sharing. It's instead of hiding. Some parents definitely don't want to discuss with their kids what happened in their life so that they can hope that their kids don't repeat those things. But, again, you might just be avoiding crucial advice that your kid could need, right? So again, all things to think about in our herbal wellness corner tonight, guys. Wow, I didn't change apparently some of this. Anyways, community spotlight we got going on tomorrow. I got 2 live streams as we were talking about. Vado Speedway Park. We got 10 a.m. and we got 5 p.m. Cody Thompson, Tyler Stevens, Wild West Shootout happening January. It's a 6-day show. It's gonna be some great dirt track racing, guys. So last thing that we're gonna hit tonight are oral health exams. So exciting. Put this in there, right? Weird. How embarrassing for everybody that saw my yesterday's lower thirds on the screen. All that hard work for nothing. Just kidding. Wow, now I'm really messing things up. I'm doing it on purpose. All right, oral health essentials. Last thing. Hit it. Guilty as charged that I don't do this, by the way. Hey, but I'm trying to. Being a 30-year-old male, I still got to talk myself into some healthcare there. Hey, okay, oral health encompasses a wide range of conditions from cavities to oral cancer. The American Dental Society says you should be performing an oral check each month. This is done by opening your mouth wide, running a finger around the tongue, gums, and teeth, searching for any abnormalities, signs and symptoms you should pay attention to: tooth sensitivity, bleeding or sore gums, mouth sores or lumps that don't heal. Herpes are for life, just kidding. Red or white patches in your mouth, persistent bad breath, jaw pain or lockjaw, cracked and broken teeth. Say something about it. Don't just brush it away for months. Keep putting whiskey on it or whatever. Not a great idea. Get ahead of it. I'm telling you, it'll save you money and time on the back end too. So all good things there, guys. Anyways, hope everybody has a great weekend. See you guys on the Vado Speedway Park Facebook page.